had a little rain shower here before the game begins here today. That's not going to stop us, though. We'll have baseball for you as the Pirates are going to play host to the Philadelphia Phillies here at PNC Park. And welcome into the booth. Joe Block and Bob Walk with you here on this Sunday. And the Pirates back in action after a 6-3 victory yesterday. And yesterday it was David Freese, really one of the many standouts for the Pirates. Well-played game all the way around.
A little slow to get going after coming off that disabled list. And it's good to see him get a couple of hits. That first one, he got the ground ball, got through there. And then what he really is looking to do, because he's a middle of the lineup hitter, is an RBI guy. Hit a ball over the fence occasionally. That one barely got over the fence down the line, but still he got one on the home run column. And of course, he always is a great defender down there at third base. And you see right there at the end of the game with a great diving stop. So he was a big part of yesterday's win.
Yeah, the Pirates got good pitching from Ivan Nova today. They look to try to continue that trend, but for Chad Kuhl, really has to right the ship. He has not been himself lately.
No, you know, it's been an inconsistent start to the season for him. You know, it's just right there. There's the numbers. Just you can't really candy coat anything. He's been up and down, up and down. The consistency, I hope, will come from that sinker this afternoon. That's where I'd like to see him go.
Yeah, he had that abbreviated start, kind of got him off track a little bit, and he'll face his team he grew up rooting for, the Phillies, here today. A key game in the Keystone State Showdown. Pirates trying to win their second straight series. Pirates and Phillies up next here on Root Sports. Day at the ballpark, but especially on Sundays. And the gloves that they received today, look at that. How fun is that to be able to take home just for coming out to the ballpark today in order to play?
A lot of kids don't realize there is a playground here at PNC Park.
Andrew McCutcheon signing some autographs as well. Sign my bat, sign my glove, sign my ball. Absolutely. And then the kids get to take the field before the game.
It is a kids' day. The reason I brought up the playground is my wife Lori had the grandgirls today, and they were dropping me off over there in the cul-de-sac by the Maz statue, and My younger grandgirl said, "Grandpa, they have a playground here at the ballpark?" Because you could see it through the fence. I said, "Yes." I go, "I can't believe your dad has never taken you to the playground." So guess what they're going to be doing next time?
Oh, yeah. No,
they come to the ballpark.
Fun for everybody all the time. The little kids and the big kids who get to play the game. And there's the third baseman waiting for David Freese to come out. They get to meet the player and have him sign a ball.
Yep.
We're going to start on time today. Had that brief rain shower earlier, and there is a threat of rain later on today, too. So we'll be paying attention to all the forecasts. Now wait to meet Gift and Gope. Come on out, guys.
Wait.
Hey, while we get revved up here, why don't we look at our Rivers Casino tips to win for today? What do you got, Bob?
Well, we got Don't Wait. We've been doing a good job lately with this offense of scoring early, being the first to score. For some reason in baseball, that's always important. You wouldn't think it was like that, but scoring first, don't wait around. And we talked earlier about the sinker being important today. Don't elevate that fastball unless it's for a reason. Stay with that sinker. Cool has such a good one. Not that he doesn't have that good four-seam fastball that he can throw by people upstairs. We've seen him throw in the upper 90s. But I think to get that consistency, you know, and after you saw what Nova did with all the ground balls yesterday, pitching into the 8th inning, I think that'd be a nice recipe today. Throw a lot of grounders. Stay downstairs.
Yeah, Cool even reached 100 miles an hour on a pitch, but what good is it if you're not locating it? And so Cool said very much the same thing after his last start. He's going to try to get back on track. And the Pirates, as an outfit, they have won 5 of 7 and going for their second straight series win here on this homestand. John Jaso sign a ball and a memory that lasts a lifetime. Look what I got. Let's take a look at the lineup for the visiting Phillies. Pete McCannon putting this one together today. Cesar Hernandez back in the leadoff spot again. Freddie Galvis will move up to the number 2 hole, 4 for 8 in the series. Why not? Altera and Saunders in the middle. Joseph getting a day off with Herrera and Franco. Brock Stassi batting 7th. Andrew Knapp catching on a Sunday of Aaron Nola just activated today.
Take a look at Cool's numbers, and you know, all together they're not very impressive. You see the opponent batting average, the ERA, but he's been so up and down that you can pick out games where he's pitched very well, but then there's been the games that he's pitched not good at all, and that's what's kind of ruined the overall stats.
And moments within games, very much too. And the Honda defense behind Chad Kuhl today. Gift and Gope will get a start as Jordy Mercer gets a day off from shortstop. Freeze on the left side with him, with Harrison and Bell, the Joshes on the right. Frazier, McCutchen, Jaso in the outfield. And on this Sunday, Chris Stewart is the backstop. So Cesar Hernandez is in. Chad Kuhl ready to work. And we are underway. Switch hitter hitting over 300. Now the Phillies have been a better hitting club than they have been pitching so far, and we have seen that so far for the most part in this series, though Hellickson awfully good in game 1.
Yeah, their pitching has been kind of like how Chad Kuhl's pitching has been. They've got some good efforts, but it's been a little up and down, inconsistent, and the hitting right now is what they've been leaning on. But that doesn't mean that somebody can't go out there and give you a good start like Hellickson did.
And he gets the first out. Remember, Kuhl was hit in the knee with a comebacker a few starts ago, that time getting the glove there in time.
One hopper right back at his knee.
Our Allegheny Health Network Supermo able to get the easy out to start things.
The underhand shovel, after taking a few steps that direction, becoming very popular among the pitchers.
Freddie Galvis moving up in the order. Another switch hitter. The Phillies boast many of those, a half dozen, 3 in the lineup today. Joining 3 other straight left-handed batters. Pete McCannon, the Phillies manager, ex-Pirates bench coach and interim manager, who had his contract extended 9 days ago. And the umpiring crew today, Mark Carlson is calling the balls and strikes. C.B. Buckner at first, Manny Gonzalez at second. The crew chief is fielding Culbreth over at third base. There he is. And Cool ahead of Galvis, 1-2. Some conflict there.
Yeah, that was one of those fastballs where he really kind of rears back a little bit and tries to go upstairs on purpose with one and go with his best velocity. You can see the high target from Stewart. I mean, that was called. I want to throw something with velocity upstairs by the hitter.
And at 96 from Cool, looking very consistently in the mid-90s today. Here in Altair, a quiet series so far. Still off to a good start to the season at 3-11.
Strikeout, a couple balls hit on the ground.
Nice start, an 11-pitch 1-2-3 first inning for Chad Kuhl. And now the Pirates will take their turn. Some rough patches lately, but a 1-2-3 first inning on 11 pitches. And now the Pirates will try to get some runs for him here today. The RAV4 lineup for the Buccos. Clint Hurdle has Anna Frazier back in that leadoff spot, hitting .358. Harrison and McCutcheon and Bell cleaning up. David Freese batting fifth, his first multi-hit game. He's missed a lot of that time on the DL. Jaso bats sixth. Chris Stewart in the 7-hole. Gifton Gope, and then Chad Kuhl.
Let's take a look at Nola's numbers. The one thing that you see with just those 16 innings, you see 6 walks. So maybe a little patience. Make sure he's in the strike zone. Try to get him into some deep counts. Get the pitch count up.
Frazier at .358. Nola was just activated from the disabled list today. He is not pitched for the Phillies in a month. A lower back strain.
It's important that you change your philosophy a little bit as far as the approach, depending on the abilities of control, command, whatever word you feel comfortable using, of that opposing pitcher. I mean, if they're going against somebody like a Nova, you got to get up there and swing the bats, be ready to hit. If there's any question about the strike throwing ability, maybe it's a little iffy, then show some patience up there. You know, be willing to go to 2 strikes in an early at bat, just to make the pitcher prove that he's going to throw you strikes.
Called out right there. Very rarely do you see Frazier get called out on strikes, but he's retired. And Nola's return starts off well for him. The defense behind him for the Phils today, as you'll see, Altair, Herrera, and Saunders in the outfield. Franco, Galvis, Hernandez, and then Brock Stassi there over at first. Andrew Knapp, first start in the series for the young Phillies catcher. Josh Harrison lofts one foul to start. Well, the Pirates lineup, you know, starting to score some more runs. It had been a very slow start offensively for the team, but Pirates winning 5 of 7, and in most of these games, save for the opener of this series, you're seeing that top of, you know, half of the lineup or so really be productive.
You know, one of the things, and this doesn't mean that this is the major league, so nothing is easy, but it could be easier now that we're getting into some teams with some below 500 records. Obviously, the pitching might not be as good as we were seeing there for a while.
I'd say that's right on. Harrison's the second out. Yeah, you know, even the Nationals, who are a first place ball club, I was looking at it today, the Phillies, the Braves are coming up, and then the Mets. These are all in the top, or the bottom, I should say, you know, 6, 7, 8 teams in pitching in terms of ERA and runs allowed right now early in the season. So
hopefully that'll help a little. I think it is helping.
Andrew McCutchen yesterday coming up with a base hit. Run scoring single in the 3rd, part of his 1-for-5 day. Two outs and the base is clear. Looking for the first base runner of the ball game. Nola has been very good when he has been healthy. Had an elbow strain last year that limited him as well. I mean, the Phillies think he's got ace-like stuff. Now, he doesn't throw very hard, but in terms of his command, you mentioned the walks coming in. That's kind of un-Nola-like.
Nola-like?
Don't know if the back strain had anything to do with that.
Well, what was weird is he's looking at. I think most of those walks came in one game, I believe. Of course, it's not exactly like he has a whole bunch of games.
Yeah, 4 in that final outing before he went on the disabled list. That makes a lot of sense. Busted his bat. And Galvis throws him out. So both pitchers working easy 1-2-3 first inning. We'll bring you the second frame with a scoreless ball game.
Pirates and Phillies in the rubber match of the weekend series at PNC Park. I'm Robbie. It's Mikowski. Well, today marks the start of the 5th annual Pirates Fathers Trip. Bunch of Pirates fathers, 20 to be specific. That's a record. Will join their kids on the flight to Atlanta. But before the game, it kicked off with the fathers throwing a ceremonial first pitch to their sons, or should I say, pitches. Everybody's going to fly to Atlanta after the game and check out the brand new SunTrust Park and spend the next 4 days with their sons. And it's always a fantastic event. The event was started by Clint Hurdle back in 2013 in Chicago, and the other cities that have been included are Milwaukee, Washington, D.C., and Detroit. And a good time will be had by all, and we'll have a lot of details coming up on the broadcast, guys.
Well, thanks, Robbie. Yeah, and everybody
Michael Saunders
going to be up there. Yeah, you see Mr. Hurdle. Some other recognizable faces in there. Vince Harrison Sr. there on the left. Mr. Cool. I like to call him Mr. Dads.
They are misters.
Yeah. But they're all
Mr. Hurdle?
Yeah, right. They'll all be part of the fun here going forward, hopefully with a Pirates series victory. There's Clint Cool. And what's so nice for Clint Cool to get to watch his son play his now favorite team, and then the team that he grew up rooting for, and by proxy, of course, Chad as well.
Buzzed him.
Some shoulder music. Almost trimmed the hairs on his chinny chin chin. Odubel Herrera. Now, Cool grew up in Bear, Delaware, which is less than an hour's drive south of Philadelphia, so that's Phillies country. Just getting ready just in case there is a forecast for some rain today.
It might rain later. Who knows?
Especially this time of year. Good breaking pitch from Chad Cool. Yeah, getting ready just in case. Got the poncho. Got those good seats. You want to keep them.
If you care, prepare.
And Chad Cool with another strikeout, his second.
He didn't get that one upstairs and elevated, but he stayed actually downstairs where he throws his sinker.
Now, Cool last year got to face the Phillies. First time he ever got to play at Citizens Bank Park. And he had a good one. So did the Pirates with a one-sided victory. One of his best games, in fact, and got a hug with Clint. About 100 family, friends there. Windy. And just a great night. Dad's here again here today. But loved going to that ballpark. Yeah, he saw that moment. And go figure. Chad Cool ends up. Now these Phillies, these are all new guys. He wasn't growing up cheering for these guys. He's growing up facing them all. But when the Phillies were that juggernaut of the East, Chase Utley was, of course, one of the best. And of course, who's the first guy he ever faces in the big leagues? Chase Utley. Cool has retired the 6 men he's faced here in this scoreless ball game.
Health Network, the largest health system, rated #1 in the region for all the things that matter most. And by Kenny Ross Subaru, total confidence pricing. Let's go Bucks!
And here at PNC Park, Kids Day. Pirates hoping to take an early lead. They're in the confines of the dugout. They watch Josh Bell leading things off.
Well, guys moving back underneath the overhang today.
A little sprinkle at the moment.
A little bit of a drizzle there. Back there trying to get out of the way of it.
Hard hit, but right at Nola. So Nola with 4 up and 4 down.
Third baseman, number 23, David Freese.
Colton with the announcement. As kids have public address. Larry Richard having the public address today as Tim DeBacco playing the organ for the Pens later on. There's Larry. And David Freese, who we highlighted when we began the broadcast this afternoon, and just one of many all-around contributions in the game yesterday. We're seeing more and more of that. You know, the Pirates entering play today, 5 games under 500, but the way that they played earlier and maybe this last week plus feels very different.
And there was a lot about yesterday's game that you could feel good about. There was some excellent base running, a good defense. All the little tiny things were spot on in yesterday's game.
Cervelli with a timely hit, one of his 2 hits yesterday.
Yeah, and throw in timely hitting at the 3-0 green light. That was an important 2 runs to get at the time. After, it was a good base running player. Oh wait, no, that wasn't that one. The one where Frazier and Chehe double steal.
Oh yes, yeah, that came in the 6th
with
inning.
2 outs.
Yeah,
that was some of that good base running I was talking about.
Freese called out on strikes. Second strikeout looking for Nola. And Fan Jams returning to PNC Park. Flo Rida coming to Pittsburgh this Friday. And Pirates and the Mets will play at 7:05. And then after the game, that post-game Fan Jam concert with Flo Rida, presented by Highmark. Go to pirates.com/concerts. Come on out. Pirates will hit the road and play Atlanta for 4 games. And then that will be the beginning of the next homestand next weekend. Hot shot for Jaso. There's our first base runner. And now Chris Stewart will follow.
Jaso did jumping on the first pitch here. You know, after watching the first inning with Nola, obviously is around the plate, throwing strikes. He's at 15 strikes so far and just 6 balls. So go ahead, be aggressive. He's going to come at you, make him pay, and he jumped on that first pitch. Jaso also had a nice little base running play in yesterday's game that I really liked. Do you remember the error out at second base on the throw? I think it might have hit Freese. And Freese kind of laid there for a second. He didn't know where the ball was before he got up to run to third. And Jaso was the trail guy at first. And and when he saw that ball get away into the outfield, instead of just taking off for second and forcing Freese to take off, or instead of seeing Freese just lay there and then getting panicky himself and going back to the bag thinking Freese isn't going to move, he got off there about 1/3 of the way and then stood there and watched and waited and waited. So if Freese did move, he was going to be in position to move up himself. And I thought that was that just kind of, you can see that was a thinking play out there. It wasn't a natural thing, but here we go. Now watch Jaso. See him move out. Now waits, and now goes.
has time to get back.
Yeah, he got himself into that really good position. He didn't panic and go back to the bag. He didn't run immediately because he had to wait and see what Freese was going to do. But he got out there to where if Freese did get up and run, he was going to then be in position to move up also. And I think that is the play that where Cervelli got the base hit and knocked into 2 runs.
So it was.
That's the kind of like smart base running, smart playing that the Pirates were doing really the whole game yesterday.
Yeah, and we saw that a lot of those things were lacking early on. Little things that might either cost ball games or change how one-sided the game might be. We're seeing so much less of that now and so much more of what you just pointed out too. So the Pirates winning 5 of 7 feels more like it should be that way rather than lucking into a few wins.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so the ebbs and flows of the season continue. There's some nice kicks there from Chris Stewart. Hey, why not on the throwback Sundays?
Couldn't wear those shoes in the throwback days.
No, right? They're all black shoes, right?
Well, you had
what
to
about
wear
the A's?
The A's, well, the A's were the only team that were allowed to wear white.
Okay.
Now, other teams were allowed to wear certain colors, like the Phillies, for instance. You could wear those wine-colored shoes.
Oh, I see.
The Dodgers were allowed to wear Dodger blue shoes. It's kind of evolved into now. Where would you like?
Yeah, there's still some rules.
There were rules about the logos that were on the shoes. You know, they had to be a certain way.
Now, shoes are very popular, so now some more individuality. Elvis, an easy play for the final out. Jaso's the game's first base runner. He's left on, and we're through 2. 0-0. Pittsburgh, and 0-0 on our UPMC scoreboard. And during the break, though, just kind of looking at the tarp.
You're making sure it's there. They put it there. They want to make sure that no one had moved it.
Matt Brown, the head groundskeeper, talking with crew chief Fielding Culbreth.
It is going to rain. I mean, we've been kind of kidding around about it, but
it's lightly raining now.
There is a green blob on the radar moving our direction. Just depends on how dark the green is going to be.
Now, when is it coming? And starting to intensify slightly.
It's just water. Won't hurt you.
I just remember you growing up, you always played in rain.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you didn't. Here's the 1-0 down at it. Being in California.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. In the Midwest, yes. Troy and Scott out there. Yeah, just water, right? Well, they have to be out there the whole time.
Just water.
Told them today I've been so grateful that we've had such good weather for them, because they're out there. They like the letter carriers. They're out there, rain or sleet or snow, and then of course we get some rain today. Meanwhile, on the mound, Chad Kuhl has been just that. 6 up, 6 down against him. There's Billy, who works up in our booth. Full count. First 6 retired on either groundouts or strikeouts by Kuhl. And that trend shall continue. And so the leadoff man gone, and look at our Point Park tweets. One from yesterday. Jocelyn got to meet Bob Walk. His dad used him as an icebreaker to get his autograph today. Hashtag Bob Walk stories. Bob, did you sign any autographs yesterday?
No, none at all.
Any in your vehicle?
Nope, not a single one. It was a fun day.
You were a very popular guy yesterday.
A lot of
More
stuff
than usual.
going on, and it really was a lot of fun. The bad part was having to.
Look, everyone's wearing your jersey.
They're the ERs on there. I saw the ER.
Okay, well.
That's what I would do when I got hurt. I'd go to the ER. The only bad thing was yesterday was that I had to. At one point, I had to say no and go up because it was going to be the first inning. I had to get up here and get on the radio.
There's the rain in the Allegheny, and of course the Gateway Clipper clipping right along.
Gotta keep the the rivers full. Beautiful part of this area. So you gotta have the rain.
Gotta grow that grass.
Where I grew up, you don't have rivers like that. Like, you know how when it rains, you get a good thunderstorm here, and you get a bunch of water running down the street.
Yeah.
Where I grew up, that is called a river. They would name that. Anything that has more than like 3 or 4 gallons per minute, that's a river.
Ranging play by Ngope.
How about all these ground balls today? This is exactly what we were hoping for.
This is exactly what you were saying on the tips.
When he's consistent, I think this is the road to consistency.
Keeping it down unless he's intending on elevating.
I mean, he's got a big fastball. He can bring that upstairs. And I think he's got a work in progress curveball that could be a someday strikeout pitch for him. But right now, I think that that sinker is what he has to really develop and make that his go-to thing, and then build from there. And get ahead of himself. Get ahead of the hitters instead.
And here's the shame too. You know, we looked at all the numbers that, you know, Kuhl has been struggling lately. He did have a very good start, very similar to this one against the Brewers. But then the rains came after 3 innings. And he had shut him out over those 3 innings. Who knows where that game would have led if he was permitted to continue after a very long rain delay. Here we are in the 3rd again. He's rolling right along. And we're getting more rain.
The umpires don't seem too concerned. So to me, they've gotten word perhaps that this is going to be a short-lived rain shower.
Seeing if Rock's got any weather reports as he awaits the road trip. Well, the Renegades are still gating, or whatever they marauding. And so he walks the pitcher. That's the first base runner for the Phillies. 2-out walk to the pitcher.
He's not happy with that. He pretty much throwing the ball exactly where he wants. And wow, that one wasn't as far outside as I thought. That was right on the edge. Very close pitch.
So Hernandez will get a chance to bat. And when you're out there and it's raining, how does that affect the pitcher? Does the ball get wet? Or
no, no, the ball. The only thing that happens is the footing goes away.
Okay.
Especially nowadays, they change balls like the potato chips. But
can't use just one.
It's your footing that is the problem. And right now, I don't think it is that wet to where that is an issue.
So Bell will elect to get to that ball. And a very close play by the speedy Hernandez. And Pete Mackanin wants to hold up the proceedings to see if the Phillies want to take a look at this one.
I don't think that. He looked like he was out for.
And he will not elect to challenge.
Nope.
Who got there in the nick of time.
That one.
So the walk, nothing doing there. Update: Gregory Polanco progressing with that strained left hamstring. He's playing catch and hit off a tee yesterday. He could take batting practice in Atlanta, so it's good that he's traveling. And you know, as we talked about, the Pirates getting better in all phases of the game here in this recent stretch. Still want to be at full strength or as close to it as can be. And Polanco, even with that you know, relative struggles as the cleanup man, really was starting to come out of that that last week before he got injured.
Well, also we've seen what he can do in the past. We know that we're not seeing the Polanco that we're going to, and that's, you know, maybe the DL is going to be the catalyst for that. Spending a little time away from these games and come back and hit 3 home runs in that first week he's back, something like that.
Oh, yeah.
You don't know what it's going to be to kind of turn somebody's season, and that might be it. I mean, I really thought that he was going to come out strong because of the way he played in the World Baseball Classic. He really did a great job with the bat there, and he just got off to a very, very slow start. You know, a lot fell to his shoulders also with the Marte suspension and then Jung Ho not being here.
There's the Duquesne incline, and they got the Go Pen sign on that. Yeah, that's important. Game 5 this afternoon. Here, the Pirates trying to beat the Phillies and make it 2 straight series wins. If they can win today, it's 6 wins out of 8. Then you start feeling great. Go on the road to Atlanta, a team that has been struggling. Get to see that new ballpark. Clint Hurdle, measured optimism. Veteran manager, of course, never gets too high nor too low. Gifton Gope. So far, hitting enough, right? 220. Now the strikeout's still very high, about half the time. But with that glove out there, it's you know, you hope that he can hit enough continuing to go forward. But that's got to be a challenge, I would think, for a rookie playing, starting every third or fourth day.
Yeah, he's never been known as the bat guy, so probably even a bigger challenge for him.
And down on strikes to start. Gope in there for Jordy Mercer today, getting a routine day off.
Just got locked up on a breaking ball. You can see those gray clouds out in the distance. They are full of water. Now, with this continued drizzle like this, talking about the mound and the footing, eventually it is going to become a problem.
6 tons of hard packed clay
on the mound.
Yes. 6
really
tons. That's what it weighs.
The mound weighs 6 tons.
Yes.
Holy cow.
There's your stat of the day. The reason I know that is because when the groundskeepers have to remove mounds for certain sporting events and things, they've waited before. So
16 tons.
You know what you get next Sunday? You get Pirates baseball under the lights as the Pirates will battle the Mets at 8 p.m. All kids 14 and younger get their own Pirates beach towel thanks to Coca-Cola. The Pirates and the Mets next Sunday night, 8 o'clock. Go to pirates.com and get your tickets. It's beginning to be that time of year, getting warmer weather more and more. Yeah, Sid the Kid and the Pens.
Towels would be handy today, right?
Yes. If you have to leave your seat, you can come back and dry it off if an usher can't get there for you.
Be tough to keep the towel dry.
I think the 2 most savvy things a fan can do in inclement weather is bring a towel if it's going to rain, or when it's really cold, like a Steeler game or something, you bring that styrofoam for underneath your feet, and then that way your feet don't get as cold. Adam Frazier, another base hit.
That's all he does. I thought it was interesting and noteworthy that yesterday the Mood post game with Robbie downstairs that David Freese mentioned Frazier and batting title.
Yeah, he said that as Frazier gets his feet underneath him and as he plays and as he becomes a big league regular,
enough at bats and becomes a regular, then it could be in his future.
I was looking at it. I play with the numbers, and Baseball Reference is my hobby. And Frazier's just getting started too. But what Freese sees on the baseball field and the numbers show, you put those things together, he's off to such a very good start. Coming into today, hitting .322 in his career, which is about half a major league season. There aren't too many guys that do that. So I was playing with, looking at all the different Hall of Famers that had that kind of batting average in a much longer period of time with the Pirates. And just to dream for a moment, if he can keep doing somewhat what he's doing, he'll be in a pantheon of some very good players. But it's a half a major league season's worth so far. It certainly has definitely earned the right to play every day right now. Stole his first base yesterday. Now, you talked about how the mound starts to get muddy. What about for a base stealer? Does that get?
Oh, of course, yeah. The footing is, for everybody is not good once it starts raining, but the mound, I I used to actually stand on that 6-ton behemoth. And so that's what I know. And yeah, it gets to be a problem. You get a little slippery out there. And then you clean your cleats, but the second they're clean, then you walk back because the bottom of your shoes are soaking wet. So as you walk back, the dirt's all, clay is all collecting. And the important part about the footing is when you land with that front foot, when you land the planet, you don't want it to slide forward at all. If you put that front foot down and then it hits and then slides forward a couple inches, talk about just destroying your mechanics. I mean, that'll do it. So when that front foot hits right there, you want it to stop. And as you can see there, it never moved. The footing probably still pretty good.
Good look on our Allegheny Health Network Super Mode. Trying to keep Frazier honest. And then when you dive back in, that jersey, instead of getting all dusty, it's all caked.
It's a good look, isn't it?
Yeah.
The mud, the dirt.
Dirt ball. Full now on Harrison with 2 outs. Trying to keep his bat dry, too. It's a very light sprinkle at the moment. Frazier will be on the move on 3-2. Nola with his 4th strikeout. 2-out hit left on. And we're 0-0 through 3.
Wheel drive rad 4th inning. Toyota, what drives you?
And 0-0 as we begin the 4th. Little rain here today. Still having some fun though. Still playing some ball here. And the University of Nebraska baseball team is here. They just played Penn State. And so before they go back to class in Lincoln, Darren Erstad and his group having a dad's day too, I guess, right? Having some fun. Good to have them out here. Big Ten baseball.
The euchre seats, huh?
Must be in the front row. Well, they're dry.
Yeah, I think just about everybody is up there trying to get underneath the short roof.
First ball in the air. And Gope goes a long way to track that down. He makes everything look easy.
Cool, giving him some props on that.
Look at that.
He's playing up the middle.
Cool and controlled, except for the hat.
concentration on the baseball, looking up into the raindrops, the gray sky. It's hard to look away and then look back up and find that ball sometimes in the gray sky. So you have to just run with your eyes straight up the whole time.
It's been great to watch him at the major league level. We've been treated in spring training, you know, to see that glove and just extraordinary things that he could do. Now that play looks so simple, but that's a play. How many times have we seen get jumbled out?
Takes somebody with some athleticism. First, you got to have that good break, get the quick first step, read the ball, and have that quickness to get under it.
And we'll see a few jaw-dropping type plays. We saw some in the spring. Cool. Meanwhile, the Phillies aren't doing much against him.
No, not much at all. He is throwing just about everything he wants, where he wants it. Still looks like the footing on the mound is not too bad. You can see when he lifted up the foot there, you can see the bottom of his shoe. It is getting pretty covered, but the cleats can still peek through and do their job. Now, when that clay gets caked on there so thick that you don't have hardly any of the cleat hanging down, that's when you start sliding.
So far getting ahead more than half the time. And those little kiddos, yeah, they want to be on that field one day. He's
southpaws.
Already got his wind up perfected.
Looks like the rotunda's still dry. A little slipping going on.
Yeah.
A couple of wet spots you just got to be concerned with, but other than that.
What a great giveaway today. Getting a free ball glove.
Some sharp looking units.
Smart parents to teach them to throw left. And Chad Kuhl, just one walk. That's all he's allowed so far through 4. Last of the 4th. And you go back 55 years. Our day automotive this day in Pirates history. In 1962, 62 or 55, yeah, 55 years ago. Had to do the math. The Pirates beat the Cubs 8-4 at Forbes Field. Bill Verdon, Dick Grote, each with 4 hits and 3 RBIs. The top 2 spots in the lineup that day.
Certainly a couple Pirate greats right there. Bill Vernon, Dick Groat.
Get to see them from time to time. It's gonna be a nice day back in Bill Vernon's hometown in Missouri. Coming up 4 days from now, he'll have a statue unveiled in his honor. So here, just a little bit of light rain, not putting a damper on the caliber of ball game we have seen today. So far, pitching has ruled the roost. No base runners before 2 outs for either club. Bell hit one back to the mound in the second. Chad Kuhl has not issued a hit. Just 1 2-out walk to Nola. What a play by Stassi. Rob Bell of extra bases.
And then he had to get to the bag himself. Nola got caught admiring that fine dive. Well, there was no one for Stassi to give the ball to. Now Nola takes off running, but he is going to get beat. So Stassi realized that. Nola never broke until he saw that ball get caught. And that's too late. You got a left-hand hitter that runs well, like Bell.
I thought it was great. Not only could he make that play, get to the bag, but he also blew a bubble in the same process.
Yeah, that's a good job. Right
Yeah,
there. That's a baseball player.
A baseball family. Grandfather, great-grandfather, caught in the minor leagues. Mostly out in the Southwest. His younger brother Max has played for the Astros on and off each of the past few seasons. So not well known like the Boones or the Bells, because most of their success was at the major league level, but still long lineage in that family. David Freese with 2 outs and the bases clear. We have said that for every team in every inning at some point. And Nola, also a part of a baseball family. He's got a brother, Austin, currently playing in Double-A with the Marlins. He has played at the Triple-A level in New Orleans. And so his brother Austin, you could say, maybe the first one or one of the very few to ever have the name of his last name on the front of the jersey. They wear a jersey that says Nola, New Orleans. They do.
Yeah, just got to change whatever you want up there in the corner.
Change the gender.
Fit the situation.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Hey, bring your child maybe to the first game, right? Head to PNC Park for Free Shirt Saturday. This Saturday at 7:15, as the Pirates will host the New York Mets. And get to the ballpark early. First 20,000 fans receive a Pirates t-shirt. Thanks to Peoples. And get your tickets at pirates.com/Free Shirt Saturday so you can get one on. Comes in all sizes, or at least one.
One size fits all, right?
Yeah, right. I guess they got them. They just they don't know how to use them. Yeah,
it's raining. That's almost a
you don't want
rule. When it rains, you got to take your shirt off.
Yeah, right. Don't try this at home. I guess it's not raining inside your home, and if it is, you need to be not watching the game and calling somebody. Out to left. Go pay. He's just amazing. His range is basically the field. Anywhere within the lines is.
I would love to see what hear what he and Frazier were talking about.
I mean, that's the left fielder's ball, right? And Frazier's just like, wait a second.
Going, and Frazier's going, quit showing me up here now. Let me catch one. He's playing
right
up the middle.
Screen.
He's playing up the middle.
The only guy I've ever seen do anything like that was Billy Hamilton of the Reds when he was a shortstop in the minor leagues. Got all the way back out, I don't know, close to the warning track. Made a catch. I don't know what happened to left fielder at that time. And then Gope, you know, I mean, about where Frazier's standing now, he made a catch. And I mean, if Gope is positioned like he is right now, he's on the left side of the infield, he could, on a lazy fly ball, make a catch out there the way that he gets out the ball so quickly. I don't know what that means, but they're having some fun. I think that's like he's saying like he needs a chin strap because his hat keeps popping off.
That's what it is. Yep, need a chin strap.
That is called a foul ball, and right underneath the feet of fielding culprit. Yeah, Joey Cora kept taking his helmet off in the dugout and put on a regular cap and forgetting to put the helmet back on. So they've had some fun with that this week. And Frazier can't get that one. That one was stung by Franco.
Yeah, nobody's going to catch that one. That ball blasted into the gap.
Very well hit, and the first extra base hit by either club today. First hit allowed by Cool.
And if this is a high fly ball, somebody might have a shot at getting back there, making that play. You know, Frazier cuts, but it's just, you can see it's a line drive back to the warning track into the deepest part of the park. That's always going to be a double.
6th one this season for Franco. Rock Stassi made that fine play, robbing Josh Bell of extra bases last inning. Getting a start for Tommy Joseph today.
Joseph been pretty hot with that bat coming in. Nice to have him out of the lineup.
A few of the bench guys getting a start for Pete Mackanin today.
Sunday lineups. A lot of managers will do that. You have to play your bench guys. You got to get them in there somewhere once a week or so. And Sundays is always, for whatever reason, is a popular day for that.
That's the Pirates Sunday lineup. A lot of times the backup catcher starts on Sunday, and then maybe a few others sprinkled in, right?
Yeah, backup catcher almost gets those day games all the time. Ideally, you don't want your catcher catching a day game after he caught 9 innings the evening before. And sometimes they'll reverse that role. They'll have a backup catcher catch the night game so that the regular guy can go in the day game, kind of depending on what the matchup is going to be, who's pitching for you, and if you want to have somebody catch a particular guy, they'll do it that way.
Good footing there too. Escalators still in service.
Couple of right fielders.
Polanco and Parker.
You can see the target that time. Wanted the real good fastball, and he got it at 96 miles an hour velocity wise. But that was a designed pitch upstairs. High target, not a mistake. Didn't mean to throw it that high, but the letter high fastball was what the call was.
And where the letters of the uniform are. So Franco, after that double, there at second with 1 away. That would definitely constitute the biggest rally for either team so far. First time there's been a base runner with less than 2 outs. Franco about an average runner. Full count on Stassi.
Any change up there?
Andrew Knapp would be next. Trying to stay underneath that overhang. Oh, light rain. Right now it looks like we're getting spared depending on where you're at. If you're in the Pittsburgh area, if you're in the South Hills, probably saying, well, why? It's not even raining here. And then if you're in the north, you're thinking, yeah, get the arc out.
I was looking at the, well, yeah, you got it right there. Yeah. You're looking at the radar, and we have been fortunate that we haven't been hit yet. And looking at the way things are right now, we might escape the whole thing.
Oh, I don't.
Might be a little drizzle like we're playing in right now for the rest of the game, but I don't think the heavy stuff's going to come down for a while.
Well, the Doppler walk 1000 over here tells us there's a walk to Stassi.
Looks like we're going to have a little bit of a powwow out here.
Yeah, conversation. Ray Searage coming out with the first time we've seen multiple base runners on today.
Could hear in the crowd mic somebody's encouraging Ray to go out there. But Ray, go out and talk to him.
Wearing an all black.
Yeah, the all black look is really a throwback. I haven't seen that ensemble, and I don't think we've ever done that as for a throwback uni.
Yeah, that's the modern top, but you know, with the black
still,
pants,
you can kind of get the you know, that's a little bit of a jacket, but there was a uniform back at the time when they wore the gold tops. Also, was actually was just, you could mix and match any tops and pants and whatever, and you know, I mean, you could wear all yellow or all gold, all white, all black.
There's pinstripes.
Pinstripes for a little bit, and then you could just mix and match all those different tops and bottoms, and you could wear a different uniform every night of a homestand.
Back before teams did that. I mean, nowadays we see a lot of that.
I think
at that time it was pretty much you had your standard home in your road, and
I've been told we have where the All Blacks in Oakland a few years back.
Sources close to you.
Yep. I didn't remember that, but I am not going to dispute it either.
What we hear in our ear, we know is fact. And now Cool getting ahead, 2 strikes with the pitcher on deck. Well, there's some information. Dave Joss has the.
I think we should have been looking at that.
I don't know.
It's coaching signs or
Yeah.
something there. It might be
Highly classified.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just kidding, by the way. I'm not showing anything out of the ordinary. I was joking. Just let everyone know that
We just wanted to see the
we're not going to
start.
give away any secrets.
Comes back to strike him out. And Knapp unhappy.
You know, it's one of those pitches that if you take, it might not go your way. It's a close pitch. And if it's called a ball, well, then the pitcher and the catcher aren't going to like it. It's right there on the edge.
And Knapp, a catcher himself.
Somebody's going to be upset with the call one way or another. Umpire can't win on that one.
Now that you get Knapp, you face the opposing pitcher, but Cool walked him the first time around. Nola in his brief major league career, .068 batting average. He's got 2 on with 2 out. And he's ahead 0-2. Into the netting down there.
A little late on that one, huh? He took that out of Stewart's glove.
Well, just trying to put it in play. Neither club has been able to have a runner at third today. Pirates haven't even gotten a second yet.
Put it where they wanted to.
Now 1-2 on Nola. .98 from Cool, but out of the zone.
Last one, 97. Walking around out there a little bit, thinking to himself.
Well, if Aaron Nola beat you, right? I mean, is that the mind frame?
No,
You just come right after him here, right?
he's thinking about the walk earlier is what I think he's thinking about. I think he's trying to come right after him.
What's Dad say about that?
What I look like at the Little League game sometimes.
He was ahead 0-2, and now Nola has worked it full. Also costing him some pitches on that old pitch count. Garrett Cole cheering him on.
.30 pitches this in.
Runners will be on the move. So already an 8-pitch at bat to Nola after walking him the first time. So Nola's plate appearances might cost Cool an inning later on. Another 3-2 and another foul on another fastball.
I think that might be a pitch count phone call. Up in the 80s now. There you see all the pitches to the opposing pitcher.
And he finally strikes him out. On the 10th pitch, the inning ended. And now Dad can relax.
Sports is brought to you by the Chevy Malibu and your Western PA Chevy dealers. And by Day Automotive. We're going to make your day. Let's go Bucks!
And the sunshine reflecting on the glasses of Andrew McCutchen. Not enough of that here today so far.
He's got star power. See the water running down the windows of the escalators.
Now this is one of America's prettiest ballparks, our favorite. And for Chad Kuhl, who grew up in Delaware, rooting for these Phillies, boy, he has turned it into another gear, as he did last year in Philly, facing this bunch, shutting him out through 5. Now the Pirates need to get him a run. Hey, the rain has kind of stayed pretty light. Just a light breeze today. Not bad considering the forecast. I woke up this morning and you look at those percentages that were very, very high. And yes, it has been raining for most of the game, but lately. Jaso with 1 of 2 hits. The Pirates have managed 2 singles and no walks against Nola. Coming off the DL today. Hard line drive single into right for Jaso his first time.
One of the hardest balls hit today.
Yeah. Nola, who really had a good start to his career.
Been one of those games where it's easy to keep track of the hard hit balls.
On one hand, yeah, but Nola, in his brief major league career, already with a 3.12 ERA coming into today. The first pitch strikes have been there for him. And grew up in Louisiana. About an hour, or kidding earlier about Nola, New Orleans, Louisiana, the nickname of that, but grew up in Baton Rouge, so a little more than an hour's drive from New Orleans to LSU. Has not walked a man today. Until now.
He didn't give in. He tried to pick the corner. Did not give in to the count, just try and throw a strike. But he paid the price. Now there's a leadoff man aboard.
First time today for either team that has taken place. Bottom of the lineup coming up. Kids Day here at the ballpark. Getting that baseball glove. Jaso's running. Might have been a hit and run there.
Yeah, definitely hit and run. You can kind of tell, I think, by the swing of Stewart that he would just make contact with whatever he throws, and he ended up getting a curveball. Yeah, it's a hit and run swing.
So is the batter, he's got to
obligated.
He's got to hit,
no matter what.
Swing at least. Try to hit.
If it bounces 2 feet in front of home plate, then if you can stop your swing, even though you've got it in your head, you're swinging at anything, you can take that.
Because the runner might, or should be safe.
Well,
yeah,
you're hoping that the ball bouncing in the dirt will do the job of letting the runner get in safely. But see, the runner also, he's not getting a break like he's trying to steal the base. He's not looking to get a great jump. He's just running to stay out of a double play in case you hit a ground ball at somebody. So he's not going to run until he is sure you're going home. So now if you don't get protected by the hitter, if the hitter swings through the pitch or takes the pitch, you've got a lousy jump off first base. And because it's a hit and run, the reason they put the hit and run on, you're probably not real fast to begin with. You know, you're just got medium speed. So everything's going against you to steal that base if the hitter doesn't do anything to at least foul the ball off.
Does that protect the base runner then?
The play is designed to stay out of the double play. If you just play station to station, you know, you come up with a ground ball, you get the double play. Well, this way you get the runner going. So if you get the ground ball, now you have a runner in scoring position with one out. And if you're lucky, the ground ball actually goes through a hole somewhere. And because you started the runner, there it is. This is what we're talking about right there.
Jaso was standing at second before the ball was in Franco's glove.
That's a. If he doesn't break, then that's a ground ball to the third. You're probably going to get, you know, around the horn double play is a little tough, but you get a chance to get it, you know, get 2 outs there
with a slower batter.
Right. So right here, you start the runner. 2-1 is really a great pitch to hit and run on. I'll explain why here in a second, but you start the runner, you stay out of the double play. Now with 1 out, you have a runner in scoring position. If you got somebody at the plate you know can handle the bat and make contact, good hit and run guy.
Yeah, Stewart is just that.
And the reason 2-1's a good hit and run count, especially with somebody like Nola that's proven today that he's going to be a strike thrower, you know that the ball is going to be somewhere that the hitter will be able to make contact. Not going to be some wild fastball up and in at his head or something like that. The 2-1, the pitcher's got 2 balls, so he does not want to go to 3-ball count.
And on the first pitch that made sense too, right? Because Nola, we just showed, has been getting ahead of hitters strike 1 quite a bit. So yeah. Now you got a man in scoring position for Ngope with the pitcher on deck. or at least do next.
If you're a pitcher and you're kind of afraid of that hit and run, the best defense against it is throw strike one and then follow it up with strike two.
Jose Osuna in the on deck circle. He would bat for Chad Kuhl, the pitcher.
Because that way, if they don't hit and run on the first pitch, they're not likely to do it on an 0-1 count, and they're certainly not going to do it once you get to 2 strikes. So that's always, I thought, the best defense against a team likes hit and run is be aggressive and get ahead of them.
Wade LeBlanc getting active. So it looks like Kuhl will be done after 5 shutout innings today. Jaso moving to third on that. And so with 2 away, let's go back to the studios. Dan Potash checks in with a game break. Great to see him working into that lineup, and key part of that Cubs lineup too.
I wish he was working into somebody else's lineup instead of the Cubs.
Well, yeah, harder to cheer for him in that regard. Cubs, the 3rd place Cubs, taking on the 1st place Brewers. Chad Kuhl done after a strong outing today. Good to see him bounce back.
Yeah, really an outstanding outing. Really did a great job with the ground balls early in this ball game. Most of the time only get the ball upstairs if he wanted to. When Stewart asked for a high fastball, that's when he would elevate and try to throw the ball by somebody.
And you might be saying, well, how come you pull him out before giving up a run? He's thrown 82 pitches, but maybe just starting to crack a little in that 5th plus. I've heard you say before, sometimes it's better with a pitcher that's been struggling to kind of take him out.
Let him in on a good note. Yeah. If he's a veteran guy that's been around for a little while, you probably wouldn't see him come out of the ball game in this scenario. But right now, you can understand why they're making this move at this time.
And not to mention, Pirates don't have a run. The man at 3rd, Osuna trying to drive him in. And so we'll go to the 6th still with a pair of goose eggs. FC scoreboard. A little light rain, not ruining the spirits of folks today. And Chad Kuhl definitely weathering the storm throughout the day. He was really good.
Hey, really early in the game, I think, set a tone with all the ground balls he was getting. You see how athletic he is, able to make that play. But when Stewart wanted the fastball up, he could give a high target. and he could get that ball up there. He could throw the ball by some people. We've seen great velocity out of Cool at times, and this was just a strong game for him, and one that definitely he should be able to look at now and build off of.
That made Dad happy too. 5 scoreless, just the 1 hit. Hard hit double by Franco, and he'll give way now to Wade LeBlanc.
You see Wade's numbers on the season. He's gotten off to just an excellent start, doing all different jobs coming out of that bullpen, and nobody has been able to hit him much at all. Opponent batting average very low, 213.
And so now the Pirates will turn around some of these switch hitters. First Hernandez, who bunted it.
That hit him in the face.
Kind of a
didn't really react to it. I thought
sequence.
It did. Maybe it didn't.
Bunted it and then
yeah, it did. Kept on the side of his head.
Sometimes, remember, you used to see the guys wear the double ear flaps, especially the switch hitters. I guess that's the one time where that might have come in handy.
Ringing in his ear right now.
Tinnitus. You
tell what that is? Ringing in your ear.
I learned with all those flashcards with my wife studying medicine. So it's amazing how much I pick up. I'm almost sure I know nothing now. I just can say the words that make it sound like.
So next time I don't feel well, I can just come to you.
Yeah, you just by proxy. I can advise you to get even sicker. So. One thing I do know is do not eat creme brulee. Just for you. Everybody else.
You can eat it. Just be careful what you wash it down with.
Yeah. It's sharp. Yeah, you got to keep it
sharp.
Keep that
little shards.
Throat. It well out toward the notch.
Not well enough.
McCutchen hauls it in.
Well, it had kind of a scary sound off the bat, though, didn't it? The crack. You knew it was hit pretty well, but that ball just got too high. Now to use the modern lingo, instead of hit too high, we would say that had the wrong launch angle. Correct? Used to say it was just hit too high, but now we have to refer to the launch angle being not optimized for distance.
You're being too acute.
Exactly. Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Help me make my point.
Yeah. So another switch hitter turned around. Galvis 0 for 2 against Cool. Everybody 0 for except for Franco. Home runs last year for Galvis, really a breakthrough campaign for him. Freeze stays with it. 2 up and 2 down. Aw, shucks. And a look at our Point Park tweets. It's raining in the Berg. How about some more of those hashtag
rain stories?
Bob Walk stories. Bob, tell us about the Phillies days.
It's 2 outs. You can't do it now.
All right. Yeah, that's the the rule in broadcasting. Right, you don't start a story with 2 outs, just in case the inning ends. So.
And it's tough too. We got a 0-0 game going here.
Yeah. Those are usually saved for more of the one-sided affairs. Aaron Altero 0 for 2 today. I'm sure you'll have one before we're through today.
I could come up with like a Phillies rain delay story, I'm sure. I don't think we're going to have a rain delay today. It's not in the cards.
You've been saying that this whole time.
I'm pretty sure. We have definitely dodged the bullet today.
And LeBlanc does so against the Phillies. 1-2-3 in his first inning of relief. Still 0-0. Pirates and Phillies yet to score. Nola versus Cool originally here today. Nola is still on. And the kids staying dry for the most part. And let's look at our Barrel Automotive League leaders for today. The leadoff hitters with the highest on-base percentage this year. Two guys who did not begin the season as starters atop that list. Both Adam Frazier and Michael Conforto of the Mets. Two really good young hitters, different styles. It's entering today. And that's as the leadoff man. Frazier overall still getting on base more than 40% of the time. That will work under any circumstance. And he finds his way on again.
Yeah, he got one of those curveballs down and did not hit it all that hard. Just a well-placed ground ball, but still he's getting on base. Teak asked me an interesting question in the pregame about our first two hitters. Like,
I know where you're going to say.
Yeah. Which way should they hit? I mean, as far as who would be the best number one, the best number two. It's kind of a very interesting conversation. You get into it because they both have attributes that play in both spots in that lineup. And today it's 1-2 Frazier Harrison.
I thought what you were going to say is these guys find a way to get a hit on Harrison's more of a quote unquote bad ball hitter, but Frazier still has also that knack of kind of creating a hit out of a ball that's maybe a pitcher's pitch, or even something way inside or way outside or up or down.
It's the Pirates, they put a lot of emphasis on their best hitter hitting number two also, which kind of changes that conversation. If you're looking at Frazier as your best hitter, then maybe he should be the number two guy. I've always thought it's kind of neat if you have a left-hand hitter in the number two spot, because scenarios like this, look at the hole you got to pull the ball into over on the right side. But J-Hay being able to hit just about anything anywhere is also a very valuable spot to have, or a very valuable trait to have in that number two spot when you have somebody aboard like this. Talk about a hit and run guy that can make contact with about anything.
Yeah, the old prototypical.
Yeah.
You know, number two
hitters. You can come at this with almost every different kind of angle you want to make that case of which guy you would rather have hitting leadoff and which guy you'd rather have hitting in the number 2 spot.
And remember, the Pirates last year as McCutchen, the number 3 hitter out on deck. They talked about that, and Clint Hurdle just said that the other day when talking to him during a radio interview. That number 2 spot, the Pirates feel, is the most important spot, and that's why they had McCutchen there to begin last season.
And that was the day that they had Bell hitting number 2.
Right. Two, 4, and 1 are the top spots. I forget the order. Maybe 2, 1, and 4, but 2 is the, in terms of what the Pirates think of the most important positions in the order. And Gregory Polanco being in that 4 spot all year when he's been healthy, currently on the DL. Frazier already with 31 hits this year, which aside from Harrison, he's just about near the top of the team.
And he's spent 3 weeks on the DL.
And wasn't a starter before that. Not every day, here and there. So, I mean, he's hitting .369. He's hitting .438 in May. And that's before today. He's 2 for 3. Just got back in. Ooh. By his pink fingertips there at the Mother's Day gloves on.
When you have that, you know, okay, I've maxed out my lead now. Don't go any further.
Now he's running, and Harrison cracks that one into left. Frazier on the move to third, 2 on with nobody out.
High fastball up and in, trying to run it by him up there. That's kind of what we were just talking about. Jay Hay can hit the ball wherever it's pitched, down and away, up and in. And see, Frazier, because he's on the move, he can easily get into third. It almost looked like he was trying to bait a throw there. Did you notice he kind of slowed down around second? And then kind of kicked it back in once the throw looked like it might come his way. But in that scenario, he wanted them to try and throw him out so that Jay could get to second base. But the ploy didn't work.
That's smart thinking in the midst of it. Harrison running, and he's going to steal the base. Uncontested.
Tremendous jump. He picked an excellent pitch to run on, breaking ball, curveball down the way in the dirt.
Oh boy.
Very good jump. The ball bouncing in and absolutely no play.
4th steal for Harrison. 2 in scoring position. Nobody out. Infield halfway for the Phils. Have to go back. So 1 out.
I wonder what they'll do now strategy-wise. The Phillies at an open base with 1 out. Will they give him the point by and try to set up the double play?
Yeah, they're going to bypass Bell. An intentional walk. Fill him up for Freeze. Pete McCannon, Phil's manager. Nola, no room for error. Remember, first game back off the DL, he did make a couple of rehab starts in the minor leagues leading up to this. This inning started when Adam Frazier singled, moved to third on Harrison's single. He stole second, and then Bell just now passed, intentionally walked. David Freese 0 for 2. He lined out his last time.
Well, get me over breaking ball to try and get ahead, and it worked. Freese, not sure that one came all the way back in. You know what the last time that happened when he didn't like that first pitch breaking ball call? He hit a home run.
Ah.
That was just yesterday. He had a little discussion about that first curveball that he didn't like.
And got another one down and in.
4 pitches later, he got the down and one, almost in the same spot that he didn't like. Well, there's an RBI.
A run batted in on the hit by pitch, so the intentional walk allows the Pirates to force in a run and take the lead.
That's the bad part about the intentional walk in that scenario is there's no room for error now for the pitcher to, you know, be real careful and maybe walk somebody or hit somebody, as in that instance.
Right in the upper arm.
Freese really not trying to get out of the way of it. He just almost just kind of turned and let it hit him. Knew it was going to be an RBI, and now that RBI taking a lead.
Especially in a game like this, you'll take it any way you can. So he's aboard. A couple of singles, an intentional walk, a hit batter. And Rick Kranitz, the bullpen coach.
They hadn't even taken the tarp off the mound yet.
Nola is, along with Hellickson, pretty much their aces, so they're going to ride him out some more.
He's only thrown 77 pitches, but this is his first start back. The DL.
Jaso hit the ball hard his first time, walked his last time around. That's what the Phillies wanted to have happen. Gets him out of it, but the Pirates do get the lead on a hit batter. And so we've got our game's first run. It's in favor of the Buccos. Great look at this one on our Allegheny Health Network Super Mo, and as the rains come, Leo there to help us out. Yeah, even the cameras get a little wet. Our camera folks as well hanging in there today. Fans staying dry. The good thing is the rain has all but stopped over the last couple of innings. after a little bit heavier rain earlier, but just a very light mist now. Michael Saunders, who has homered in his career against LeBlanc, 0 for 2 today. Do pitchers remember that? Do they have a book on guys that go, oh, I remember this guy got me, even if it's, you know, years ago? Or
depends on how many times. I mean, I don't think I would remember one home run. Now, if let's say it was just you know, 1 or 2 at bats off somebody, and then you see him again, like say 2 years later, you would remember that probably. But if it's somebody you face a lot, no, you're not going to remember one home run.
And LeBlanc takes care of him this time to start the 7th.
And some guys actually didn't walk around with a book.
Hey, let's look at our Nissan road ahead. After this one, the Pirates do take the road and travel to Atlanta. The first look at SunTrust Park. Garrett Cole against Mike Foltynewicz in the opener tomorrow at 7 o'clock. All night games until the Thursday matinee. Nova and Cologne. Always entertaining to watch Mr. Cologne pitch.
He would have to have several volumes of a book on all the hitters he's faced over the years.
A Britannica like set. Ah, that's right. All the fun pins, maybe all the different ballparks. There's Turner Field in there. Oh yeah, you won't be able to go there anymore. Not for baseball, at least. Odubel Herrera with an O single. And then Gope still almost found a way to have that one. He's been all over the place today. I think they're teasing.
Not enough.
Not enough. What, height?
Yeah. There's not a lot of height in the middle of the infield today.
Yeah, 5'8" in Gope. Jordy Mercer, one of the taller shortstops, at 6'3". And I think we're going to have a double switch here in the midst of everything going on here. All right, so pitching change here in the 7th. Juan Nicasio coming on.
Is presented by the authority of the Pittsburgh Pirates and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Pittsburgh Pirates.
And what had started out as a rainy day, starting to clear a little bit. Still some light rain here. 1-0 Pirates. And son's first Pirates game. It's a reusable sign, but in the rain today, well,
it'll be retired now.
Yeah, that might be it. Congratulations on the 3. Danny Ortiz is in the game on a double switch. He's now in right field. John Jaso moves from right to first. We've been seeing this a lot lately. LeBlanc out, as is Josh Bell. And Juan Nicasio is in with a man at first and 1 out in a 1-0 game.
And Nicasio's numbers this year all have been very good. Opponent batting average low. A lot of work. 20 games.
12 consecutive appearances without a run allowed. Continued that yesterday. And in those 12, he has inherited 5 runners, and none of them have scored either. So he has been about as shut down of a middle reliever as it gets, and for better than a month.
That bullpen as a whole is, I mean, there's very few games you could pin anything on them.
Yuki Rojas should have thrown some grass seed down or something. No, that's drying agent.
Cat litter. No telling what the mounds are going to weigh after today. Getting heavier and heavier.
Herrera with 4 steals, been thrown out 3 times. Right at the knees. And Pat Neshek just starting to get up. And the bullpen
spreading out a little bit and raking. Getting ready for the next guy.
That's a strike.
The pitch before was probably not a strike, but that one definitely is. Yes, weird. He didn't really react, Franco, to the pitch before, which was quite a bit outside. That one he reacted to, and it was an actual strike.
That's why I called it at the knees. It didn't say where.
Yeah.
I didn't say it was on the corner.
No, it was at the knees, all right. Out on the edge of the left-hand hitter's batter's box,
yes,
but at the knees.
Brock Stassi ground out at a walk on deck. If it gets to him, Pirates would like to turn 2 here. Franco has grounded into 8 double plays already, but extended his hitting streak to 8 games with a double his last time. That double, the only extra base hit in this ball game. It has been to the pitcher so far. Pirates are on their 3rd after Chad Kuhl went 5 scoreless, gave up 1 hit. LeBlanc for an inning and a 3rd. Herrera is his base runner. He's running. Popped it up. Fighting the light rain. There's out number 2. And yeah, under the lights and under the rain, but not heavy enough to keep us from playing some ball today.
And all the players have come out from cover, starting to enjoy the game along the railing.
A couple of moments where it had picked up some, but they have ridden through it. Garrett Cole goes tomorrow as the Pirates will begin a 4-game set at new SunTrust Park in suburban Atlanta.
Looking forward to seeing the new stadium.
Yeah, I'll get there early tomorrow, go around. I'll be a tourist, be a fan, go check it out, see all the nooks and crannies. Felipe Rivero trying out some of that new footing on the mound. Tying run at first with 2 away. Keep an eye on Herrera. He tried to run last time around. Stassi made a good play robbing Josh Bell of likely extra bases back in the 4th. Having a one hop snare over at first base. Herrera not going. Skied to center. So Nicasio strands the runner, and we will stretch with the Pirates still leading 1-0.
Is brought to you by Barrel. With express service, you're in and out in no time. Visit barrelservice.com to find a location near you. And by Levin's, the official furniture and mattress supplier to the Pittsburgh Pirates. For the best quality, service, and value, shop Levin's. Let's go Bucks!
Buccos with a 1-0 lead at stretch time as they try to take the series over their cross-state rival Philadelphia Phillies. Well, Tom Prince, he's the Pirates bench coach, and he also played 46 games for the Phillies back in 2000. And he hit 2 home runs that season. Now, that's not particularly noteworthy until you realize that both home runs were hit in the same game. Here you go, July 23rd, 2000. And it happened here in Pittsburgh at 3 Rivers Stadium against the Pirates. Now, both came off starter Todd Ritchie, and get this. Now, Bob, you can attest to this, okay? The bat he used that day allegedly belonged to a pitcher, Andy Ashby. Now, I asked Tom Prince to confirm or deny this story. He said, look, I can't confirm or deny this, but what I can tell you is this. I was known when I was in a slump for just walking by the bat rack and picking up the first bat I see. If I got a hit with that bat, I just kept using it until I didn't get a hit anymore. So he said there's probably a pretty good chance that was Andy Ashby's bat that I used to hit 2 home runs in Pittsburgh. Bob, what do you think?
Well, it doesn't matter what bat you use when the only place you can hit a ball is within 10 feet one way or another of the left field foul line. That kind of kid Princey, but he was a absolute nothing but a dead pull hitter. I mean, everything right down that foul line all the time. Some of the best balls he ever hit were 10 feet foul. And he was a one of those guys that was a true hard-nosed gamer all the time. And he knew that it's not really important about what kind of bat it is. It's who's swinging the bat that made the difference. If he just took up any old stick, that's why.
That's great to see him get a chance at the major league level. Pirates bench coach, a lot of years helping a lot of these guys get to where they are in the big leagues, working as a minor league coach and instructor, overseeing the minor leagues. Pirates in this one leading 1-0 under a light rain. Aaron Nola has gone 6. Chris Stewart in there today, 0 for 2 against him. The next will be his 80th pitch. First game off the disabled list. And even last inning, pretty much still, relatively speaking, in command, although he hit a batter with the bases loaded.
Yeah, and it wasn't, you know, he was trying to throw a fastball in. And you're going to miss your spot occasionally, sometimes by a foot. And if you miss a foot inside, you're going to hit somebody.
But he had the bases loaded, 1 out after the run was in, and then on the first pitch got Jaso to ground into an inning-ending double play. So the Pirates, you know, we talked about it earlier, how they've run into some tough pitching, and you know, when the bats don't swing it well, it doesn't necessarily mean they're facing good pitching. But I think in this case, in this series, Hellickson and then today with Nola, these are two pretty good pitchers.
Yes, they are.
The track record shows it too. But the Pirates on top right now. Stewart and Gope Ortiz. That's the trio due up here in the 7th. Hey, Kids Day. So go home with a ball and a glove. Stassi has room.
Had a problem with that glare for a moment, it looked like.
Starting to get a little bit of sunny haze overhead with the rain falling. Yeah, some darker clouds way off in the distance, but here sun trying to peek through, and a little light rain still falling. They've kept the field in good shape. Hard workers, those grounds crew. You know, whatever is happening, it's not just the Pirates games. They have to maintain it outside of the game whenever there are other events as well. Sometimes there are 24-hour days for the grounds crew. Matt Brown and company doing a fantastic job keeping this, not only the great ballpark, but the great field that we have here as well. And let's not forget Yuki Rojas as part of that too. He put that drying agent on the mound there.
Well, I had some
nice raking.
Had some folks here with me yesterday, last game, and took them out in front of the dugout for just kind of look around a little bit, and they were amazed that it was real grass because of the way it looked.
Oh wow!
It is so perfect. Is that real? Is it actually grass? Like, yeah, they're that good here.
Yeah, this is the best. Hey, MLB.tv, you can get it back, and it's better than ever. You can watch every out-of-market regular season game live on more than 400 supported devices. Plus, you get a free subscription to At-Bat Premium. Blackout and other restrictions do apply. Visit MLB.tv for details. I got to trim the hedges and keep everything.
You got to be able to spell.
That is part of the work that has to be done. Danny Ortiz. Freeze hit went out a little farther yesterday. And they're back to work again. Look forward to Miller time later in the game, brought to you by Miller Lite. And there they are, between innings, making sure, or right now actually, in fact, trying to get that drying agent on that infield, keep it true, absorbs the water that's in there. I mean, they've been able to keep doing this as the afternoon has gone on without really any interruption in play. And then when this is over, they've got to do all these things to try to get it back. Now, the Pirates don't play here tomorrow, so they've got some time to do that.
When this is over, that light beer sign will come into the picture, I think.
Here on our UPMC scoreboard, we start the 8th. 1-0 Pirates. And they'll turn to Felipe Rivero.
Done good work in this setup type role. In fact, you can't even say he's done good work. He has been just flat.
One of the best.
Overpowering of the other team.
I mean, you know, like anybody can be beaten. Paul Goldschmidt hit a home run off of him last week, but the guys that beat him don't very regularly, and when they do, it's usually some of the very best on the other end. They had a big strikeout of Bryce Harper in the previous series. And Ray Searage was talking about it on radio post game the other day about how, you know, he can offer you 4 different pitches and he throws as hard as anybody. He's left-handed and he's confident out there.
And he's only out there though for 3 outs, which makes the 4-pitch thing kind of it can be a distraction sometimes, I would think. That might be one of the changes he's made.
How do you mean a distraction? To the hitter or for him as a pitcher?
Because you have all these things that you're going to throw everything in one inning. As a starter, that's when 4 pitches really comes in handy. You're not throwing them to everybody that walks up there. You might not even throw one of your 4 pitches until the 3rd inning. That's the difference. Now, when you have 4 as a reliever, you got to make sure you don't try and cram all 4 of them into the 3 outs. Is that can lead to like maybe some control problems, especially in the past. That was a little bit of an issue before he became a Pirate.
And I would even wager to say last year too, but this year that seems to have evaporated.
Now I'm not saying that it's a bad thing to have 4 pitch. I'm just you have to be a little careful as a reliever in how those 4 pitches are used. Don't get into the trap of thinking I am a 4-pitch guy and I'm going to use all 4 of them. Especially with his stuff, if he can get by in any particular inning, maybe just throwing 2 of them, well, then why not just throw those 2?
Well, he's using the changeup there.
That was an outstanding changeup.
He uses the fastball and the changeup, and we've seen a slider in that at bat.
Right.
So.
And he can throw curveballs. Wow, that's not fair to the hitter, right?
I mean, you got to defend the plate with 2 strikes, right? You think it's there, but your bat's way out of it.
You got a guy that can throw 100 miles an hour, and he drops a changeup on you in that spot. Wow, that's tough.
Well, Tommy Joseph pinch hitting. Did not start today. Had a day off. And had a rough April, but a very hot May so far. And the Phillies hoping to get him in there with Dubre Ramos. And quickly 2 gone.
Got ahead with the fastball. Way came in and got the next one on his hands. Jam shot ground ball.
Yeah, it's, you know, when talking with Rivero the other day about kind of his pitch usage, I didn't come at him with the same thought that you had, but you know, how do you, just open-ended, how do you use those pitches? And he says he reads swings. You know, if a guy he thinks he can get him out in front, he'll use that changeup a lot. You mentioned the curveball, which we see very seldom, but
first pitch changeup there.
You know, if the scouting report says, you know, this guy can't hit a curveball or whatever, he might throw one in for strike 1 and then put that in his back pocket the rest of the at bat. But if all else fails, he's always got number one.
Not sure if that was a slider or another changeup that came with the second pitch. There's a slider. Beautiful backdoor over the outside corner.
Watch the movement. Come on. I mean, he's one of the best relievers in baseball right now. Might have broken his back.
And after all of those 3 off-speed pitches, he throws 100 miles an hour.
And threw that one to first at about 30, and
been a little issue for us. Pitcher throwing the ball 20 feet to first base.
Well, now it extends the inning on the throwing error.
Just right there. Just got to toss it.
Well, you were saying, Bob, you know, some of these pitchers starting to underhand it more. Maybe that's
well, the
key,
one of the ones we had a problem with was the underhand one. So I don't think it matters underhand or overhand. It's still just a short little, what, 20, 30-foot throw.
See if that matters in a one-run game. Here in the 8th inning, had the side retired instead. The Speedy Hernandez. Now with a runner on in this kind of situation, does that change your pitch sequencing at all? When you throw so hard, right? I mean, the pitch, catch, throw. Is it more fastballs? Or does that not matter?
I don't think in this scenario that it's going to matter at all. You know, if it's earlier in a ball game and you got your starter out there and a premier somebody like Hamilton gets on, well, the next guy is going to see more fastballs. There's no doubting that. But game on the line here in the 8th inning, 2 outs. You're worried more about the guy at the plate than anything else. Rivero went with a real quick slide step on the first pitch. This time he goes with the leg kick. That's going to mess up the timing on any kind of a steal attempt.
Rain coming down a little harder now. A steady light rain.
Slide step that time. We'll go breaking ball. Stewart expecting slider, so he's looking and anticipating something that might be low in the dirt, so he quickly shifted down and was able to make that block. Oh man, Blue, what's going on nowadays?
He's not blue, he's happy. He's eating cotton candy.
I'm blue now.
It's a foul ball. Two and 2 on Galvis. He had 20 home runs last year. 0 for 3 today.
Okay, pulled the fastball. You think if you're reading the bat now, you got to go change up, right?
Threw one earlier.
Didn't exactly rifle the ball down there. I mean, that kind of goes into it also. It's not necessarily what direction he hit it, but well, there's the sign. Change up. Well, you and I read bats well, don't we? Did not throw in a very good spot. If he throws that down and away change up again, I think he gets the swing and miss, and we're heading in.
Throwing error with 2 outs, prolonging the inning, putting the tying run aboard here in the 8th.
Change up again.
Another 1,000 fielding percentage for the ball girls.
Best in all of baseball. Anyway, not kidding with that. They are outstanding.
So we'll have another 2-2.
Okay, Tried to get him slowed down a little bit with those change-ups he threw. Thought he had him maybe set up with that fastball. Almost. Still hasn't thrown that fourth pitch yet.
Haven't seen a curve. I don't know if he's going to throw that on a 2-2, but I don't know. Slider to a righty? I don't know.
He's fouled everything else off. Fouled the slider off. So what I'm thinking is he's fouled off the fastball. He's fouled off the changeup. He's fouled off the slider now twice. Hadn't seen a hook. Nobody has. Maybe now.
Altair.
And if he throws it here and gives up the base hit, well then forget everything I just said.
He feels like that's his fourth best pitch, the curveball. So, although his top three are pretty darn good. And Ngope broke the wrong way. Well, at least I haven't seen him make a mistake like that. He just, I don't know if that ball knuckled on him or.
There's a slider right in on the hands.
Now it must have had some.
It came off the end. It was cued. It was cued, so it had that side spin, and so it went out there like a curveball. Watch, he actually pulls this ball, and then the ball breaks the other way. It was like a left-handed sweeping curveball. You know how it was just all the spin off the bat. Now the ball is spinning like crazy sideways, and so it gets halfway out there and starts to break, just like a big curveball.
Bizarre.
The ball right off the not the face of the bat, but actually the end of the bat. And that's why it put all that side spin on the baseball, and it was like a real hard breaking ball, hard curveball going out to Ngope, and it broke away from him.
Yeah, you had to figure something when he went in the other direction at first. So after the throwing error on the easy toss to first by Rivero, and a weird knuckler that got past Ngope, now the tying run is in scoring position for the Phillies, and he's got to get Altair, who has been all too quiet in this series. 0 for 3 today. Had a couple of RBIs yesterday, one with a double. Scoring bounce out in the opener, but coming into the series, you figure this guy's probably their best hitter going, and he's 1 for 11. Daniel Hudson loosening. Now behind. Another byproduct of that throwing error by Rivero, even if he gets Altair here and the inning ends, because of how many pitches he's had to throw today, it makes him less and less likely to be available for tomorrow. And if he is, then down the road for another day. So that kind of secondary consequence is because of that error.
Did it to himself.
Now it's 3-1, and he's in danger of loading the bases here. He had a strikeout, a weak ground out, and then another tapper back to the mound, but then he threw it away 20-30 feet from first base. Michael Saunders is on deck. The way this inning was going, he didn't think he was going to bat. Not even close.
I still don't think he's going to bat.
Rivero's a tough guy to hit. Altair expanding the zone. No, that's still in it. Right on that outer edge. Runners will move on 3-2. And he strikes him out. Rivero brings the heat at 98. A hit and an error, but the two men left on. Kids and dads and a pitcher who's downright bad.
I noticed that I didn't see this the first time, but a little Francisco Liriano in that delivery right there through the follow through where he spun around.
Trying to have a little.
Talking about throwing to first, I would imagine.
You can have a laugh about it when you strand two. Dubry Ramos now in for the Phillies.
20 games now for Ramos. A little insurance would be nice. Guess we got the right part of the lineup. Hopefully get a run here. Frazier leading things off. And Jay Hayes standing on deck. Good way to set the table for the middle part of the lineup.
Frazier.
Who will hit fourth this inning?
Yeah, the pitcher spot's there now. Frazier's going to get aboard.
Amazing, isn't it?
Been on base 3 out of 4 times today. Clint Hurdle double switching in the 7th. So Bell out. And the pitcher will bat in that 4th spot. Pete McCannon starter. Aaron Nola today, 1 run over 7 innings. That's not going to be good enough to win for him. Phillies still hope they'll have a late comeback try. Alan Hansen grabbing a bat. Harrison 1 out of 3 today. Pirates got their run in the 6th. Same type inning where Frazier got aboard. Then Harrison did as well on a hit and run. It was runners at the corners. Harrison stole second. With 1 out, Bell was intentionally walked, and then David Freese was hit in the arm with a pitch with the bases full. That's the only run of the game. So Freese using his glove and his bat yesterday, using his arm today. Twisting foul. The Pirates trying to double their advantage here. Both teams have been pretty much quiet at the plate. Phillies with 3 hits, Pirates with 4. Poking it out.
Get down, ball. Nope, not gonna make it.
Hangs up there long enough for Herrera. He finds his way on with those a lot.
Amazing how he can get underneath those pitches, isn't it? And get them in the air.
And a lot of times he hits them with just the right amount of force to kind of.
Yeah, that one he got too much of. He almost always hits them to center. Also, a lot of guys, if they do, get a wood on something like that, it's a flare down the chalk line, but he gets them out to the center part of the field.
Well, I don't know if we'll see Cervelli or not, being the backup catcher, but looks like Hansen would be next, batting in the 4th spot for the pitcher. McCutchen today has grounded out 3 times, twice without men on. And Tony Watson getting ready to pitch for the 3rd straight day. Pitched in a non-save situation in the opener. Preserved a 6-3 victory yesterday, and in large part because Watson was able to do so on 8 pitches. Available again today. Just nipped the outer edge. Now with Frazier's good speed, trying to pick up base hit here, could move him to 3rd. Frazier's trying to move to 2nd, and he is out. That changes the complexion of this inning.
Yeah, earlier you were talking about the conditions, how it affects the running game. Not only you might slip on a break, but
not a fast track anymore.
It's not a fast slide. You go down in the dirt, you're gonna slow down a lot quicker.
So Frazier caught stealing catcher to the 2nd baseman. It's kind of stuck.
Might have slid a little on the early side.
So the base is empty. 3-2. And McCutchen will replace Frazier. Drawing the 2-out walk. So Ramos has walked a pair in the inning, but only 1 man aboard. And Felipe Rivero lifted for the pinch hitter. Win an inning, gave up a hit, struck out a pair. 28 pitches for Rivero today. And as is custom throughout baseball, when there is a pinch hitter, everything is talked about. Luis Garcia is getting up in the Phillies pen. Let's go Bucks. Alan Hansen hitting at 163. Switch hitter runs well. He's 2 for 10 as a pinch hitter. Pirates trying to add to a 1-0 lead. Trying to take the series with a victory today. It would be a 4-2 homestand. As the Pirates have won 5 of 7 now. Another good play over there. Clint Hurdle trying to take his club to Atlanta with a victory. Be nice to have another run here, though. And Hansen comes through with a pinch hit. McCutchen in scoring position now.
That's what you were looking for, a chance to add on to this lead. Get some insurance. Right back through the middle.
Hard to do for a rookie coming off the bench. And they'll knock out Ramos from the ball game. Pete Mackanin making the pitching change. Pirates threatening here in the 8th. To their 1-0 lead here in the series finale. They've knocked Ramos out of the game. Everybody else hanging in there with the rain. And here's how the Pirates got their run right there.
That was it. And now Freed's got a chance to drive in run number 2.
One pitch and the final out. So it's up to Tony Watson. The Pirates got that one run. Will it stand up? We'll go to the 9th. On the UPMC scoreboard as we start the ninth. Pirates looking for a series victory. Having some fun here at home, and the Bucks hit the road tomorrow, opening up a 4-game series against the Atlanta Braves. And they'll also be getting the first look at SunTrust Park. Garrett Cole starts the opener for the Buccos, and join us at 6:30 for Pirates pregame, presented by WB Mason. So here we go, and the Pirates and the fans hanging in there with all the drizzle and light rain today. Might make it a little dreary for the Phillies fans on their trip back home, but 3 outs away, and the Pirates can feel good about this one.
And it's going to be Tony Watson in to see if he can pick up his, what is this going to be, save number 10. Yes, he's got 9 of them sitting there in his 16 games.
An 8-pitch 1-2-3 inning yesterday.
Last save was very clean.
First time he's had a save opportunity where he retired everybody in order. Come on, cheer up. Michael Saunders will start. Then Odubel Herrera, Michael Franco, the middle of the Phillies order. Saunders 0 for 2 in his career against Watson. 0 for 3 today. Cool, LeBlanc, Nicasio, Rivero, and now Watson, looking to try to complete the blanking of the Phillies.
Been in that rain all day.
Danny Corso there in on the right.
He's got his hair tucked into his raincoat. I like that. Keep the hair dry. Camera guys all know the tricks of the trade to deal with the bad weather. A little slider, swing and a miss. And, whoa!
Just missed.
By a smidgen, if anything. That was close.
That is the unit of measurement. Ooh, maybe not even, less than a smidgen. Now we've seen Rivero pitch in this game, and we see Watson, and we see Rivero throw very, very fast, and Watson doesn't throw as hard. How is he as effective as he is? Is it just as simple as?
Just the location is the main thing, and the messing up the timing, using that changeup, the off-speed pitches. Saunders way out in front. The pitch is 84. It's located perfectly, and you get the swing and a miss. A lot of different effective styles of pitching in baseball.
Good look on our Allegheny Health Network Supermo. Bat head way out in front, right? Where the ball travels. Herrera with a base hit his last time. Pretty confident that one was going to be out of the zone. That is a fair ball, and he's out. Good heads-up play by Chris Stewart, but Pete McCannon wants an explanation. Now, the only explanation I can think of is, did Herrera foul it off his body at all?
No.
No.
Absolutely did not do that.
Just didn't run, and he's out.
He just did not run.
2 unassisted. You see Chris Stewart shaking his head. Nope. That did not foul off. You're just out. And now an out away from victory. A strikeout and a ball hit a foot.
No, it didn't hit a foot. That'd have been a foul ball.
Let's get to Atlanta. Franco, tough customer though. Ripped a double back in the 5th. That's the only extra base hit Pirate pitching has given up today.
That well-placed changeup.
The Phillies have not had a runner at third base today. Pirates have gotten their run on a bases loaded hit by pitch, and right now that still stands. Freeze, and Watson does it again.
Another very clean save. 3 very simple outs in a row.
For the second straight day, Tony Watson sends him down to 1, 2, 3. The dads like it, getting ready for their trip to Atlanta, and the Pirates with their second straight series win. They've won 6 of 8.
Yeah, very, a very, I think, confidence building series win against the Nationals. Nationals coming in really best team in the National League, record rise. Took 2 out of 3 from them, and that is just now being carried on. And you're facing teams with the Phillies and the upcoming series against teams that are below 500, and you still have to take everybody very seriously, but you got a good feeling now that things are on the upswing.
Pirates have won 6 of 8. They take care of the series here today. 5 pitchers combined for a 3-hit shutout of the Phillies here today. It's time now to go out to Dan and Teak.
Yes, the Pirates have won 6 of 8, and more importantly, Teak, as we talked about in the pregame show, they won the homestand. After a very difficult road trip, they come home and take 4 of 6.
Yeah, and it's, that's where you want to be, obviously. You want to get things righted, and now there's some consistency to the winning pattern. It's not you're winning occasionally, you're winning a series, losing a series. All that has kind of gone by the wayside. Now you're playing a series, you're winning a series, you're moving on to the next to try to win it.
Once again, 5 pitchers taking part in this afternoon's victory, and Robbie and Mikowski is standing by with one of them. Last pitcher, but certainly not least.
Yeah, Tony Watson, how about the job he's done the last 2 days? 3 up, 3 down as the Pirates take the series against the Philadelphia Phillies. Tony, this team lost 6 in a row. Now all of a sudden they've lost 6 of 8, or won 6 of 8, excuse me. What do you attribute that turnaround to? And how do you explain just the ebbs and flows of a season and not getting too high and not getting too low?
Yeah, that's just baseball. You know, it's a long season. You hear that all the time, but it's the truth, and we've had a lot of roster shuffle, guys up and down, so guys just getting the job done the last couple of days, and it's good to build momentum going into Atlanta, get a series win here, and you know, happy flight down there.
The key number for the Pirates team this season has been 4. When they score 4 runs or more, they win a lot of baseball games. Today was a 1-0 game. What do you attribute the overall success to with the pitching staff led by Chad Kuhl in his big afternoon?
Yeah, Chad was great. 1 hit through 5 innings. Getting early contact, pitch efficiency was great. So just pounding the strike zone, and then Wade came in and did his job, and Flip came in, got nasty after Nicasio, and just tried to go out there and shut the door and get us out of here.
It was a steady rain pretty much the entire game. How challenging was it just with that mound and take on so much water throughout the course of the ball game?
Best grounds crew in the big leagues right here, so we're fortunate, and the mound was in great shape. Field was in good shape, and steady rain all game. We got all 9 in and won 1-0, so that's all that matters.
And Tony, your boys from Nebraska here, University of Nebraska, won the Big 12 regular season championship yesterday. What's it like just to pick up the save in front of them?
Yeah, Big Ten champs, so big day for them yesterday, and they're headed to the Big Ten tournament and made a pit stop here, so it's great to talk to them before the game, and you know, wish them nothing but success.
Congratulations, Tony.
Thank you.
How about it for Tony Watson and the Buccos? Dan, they get it done, a series win against Philadelphia. Off to the brand new SunTrust Park in Atlanta. They go for 4 games starting tomorrow night.
All right, Robbie, safe travels down south to Georgia. We look forward to hearing from you once again tomorrow. As we promised you earlier in the game, it's Miller time, presented by Miller Lite. And once again, 5 pitchers, Kuhl, LeBlanc, Nicasio, Rivero, and Watson, Teak, all getting it done today.
Yeah, this was kind of a case of, you know, do your job, pass the ball on to the next guy. Do your job, pass the ball on to the next guy. It started with Chad Kuhl. He was outstanding in the beginning, 5 innings. Very strong, passes the ball on. The ball ends up in the hands of Tony Watson for the 2nd day in a row. 3 up, 3 down in the 9th inning. You asked me a couple days ago about Watson when he gave up the 3 runs in a non-save situation in the 9th inning. I said, don't worry about it, because closers just kind of get lost in that. The last 2 days when he had a save situation, he was okay. So Tony Watson wraps it up. Chad Cole starts it. All the guys in the middle doing a great job.
Nice to see a team effort, not only from the team, but from the pitching staff and the bullpen as well. We are just getting started here on Root Sports. Coming up, player reaction from the Pirates clubhouse. You'll also get manager Clint Hurdle's post-game comments, extended highlights, analysis, out-of-town highlights, and so much more coming up live from PNC Park on Pirates Postgame, presented by Allegheny Health Network. Don't touch the camera.